clerk will call the roll.
Glenn Whitley, County Judge.
Here.
Roy C. Brooks, Commissioner Precinct 1. Marty Van Ravensway, Commissioner Precinct 2.
Here.
Gary Fickus, Commissioner Precinct 3. J.D. Johnson, Commissioner Precinct 4.
Here.
Constitutes a quorum.
Crystal, would you like to introduce our guest today?
Sure, thank you. As many of you know, for many years we have had the O.D. Wyatt singing chaparrals come and usher us all into the holiday spirit, and once again we are pleased to have them under the direction of Mrs. Jewel Kelly and at the invitation of our Commissioner Roy C. Brooks, Precinct 1. It's our gift to you, and we hope everyone has a happy holiday season. So, chaparrals, hit it.
1, 2, ready, begin.
Angels we have heard on high, singing sweetly through the night, and the mountains they reply, and your angels praise we rise. precious was the gift God gave to all mankind. There I know you'll never fight. The angels say, glory, hallelujah. So much peace on earth, goodwill.
God, let this child be born, angel filled with hope, a bright and shining star, showed rise in one healing. The angels sing, let there be peace on earth. Jesus Christ.
And when this child was born, you see his mother, she loved him so. But when the time had come, he knew he had to go. The angels say, hallelujah, glory, hallelujah, hallelujah. Let there be peace on earth. Jesus Christ. The angels sing, hallelujah, hallelujah. Let there be peace on earth, goodwill. Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. We let you sing. Let there be peace on earth. Jesus Christ, Jesus Christ.
Christ is the angels are hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Let there be peace. I can't hear you. Goodwill. Jesus Christ is born. The Lord Christ is born. The I'm gonna arrest some of y'all. Come on. Peace on earth, peace on earth. Goodwill. Jesus Christ is born. Let me keep the days off. All of you need to get peace on earth. Come on, God. Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. Keep your day job. The last time, just sing. Glory, hallelujah. Come on now. I didn't mean to frighten you. These are the Jesus Christ. Christ is born. Jesus Christ. From the leaders. Christ is born. Last time, keep your day job, by the way. Jesus Christ is born. Judge, would you tell them to keep their day job because they're not. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. If you hold this. I wish you Merry. You bet you be ready. Men, ready, begin. Ready, begin. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. Go outside to your right. Merry Christmas. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Merry Christmas.
Happy New Year. We wish you a Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
And I understand that the credit union helped to, Lily, there goes Lily, that the credit union bought new hats for the choir this year. We thank you for that. And as the director well said, I think we need to all keep our day jobs.
I couldn't hear Jack Beecham singing.
No, I couldn't hear him either, but that's probably a blessing. Beecham, you didn't sing very loud. I know. We all kind of agree with that.
So long you couldn't hear me.
Yeah. Get somebody to pull the doors shut back there. There's an echo, and I don't know whether it's because the doors are open or just because there's an echo. this is it's a great performance every year, and it's something I think we all look forward to. I guess
It just sets the mood.
it does set the mood for the holiday season. At this time, I'm going to call on our own chaplain, David Barrett, to come forward for the invocation, and please, after the invocation, remain standing for our pledges.
Shall we pray? Oh God, at this time of year we look around and see war, a struggling economy, people in want and many in despair. And especially at this time of the year when we see these adult realities, we are very tempted to ask, what right have we to be merry? And while these realities are fact and must be handled, there are yet other truths that we cannot ignore. If we could, but with a child's eyes, see with wonder yonder shining star, even if it is atop a tree, if we could only capture the joy of and join in the angel's song, even if it's sung by the choir, if we could just recapture the wonder of lighting that candle and noticing how one flickering wick can dispel the darkness of an entire room, if we could enjoy again the leaving of cookies and milk for a jolly old elf who looks and sounds a lot like Dad or Grandpa, if only the gathering of family and friends around a tree or table could still be the most important thing we've done all year, maybe then we could ask ourselves, what right have we to be dismal? So I ask a strange yet appropriate blessing for all of us this season. Please, for a while, help us all to stop acting like a bunch of spoiled adults and a little bit more as little children, and in doing so to discover that the kingdom we seek, it's much easier to enter into that way. God bless us, everyone. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Dave. Mr. Manius, agenda announcements.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the Court, we have several announcements this morning. The first one is under the criminal court section, item 8E2. This is a consent item. There's a corrected court communication in your folder. We simply corrected the funding year on that particular request. Also would like to remind the court that, that tomorrow PEBC meets at 2 o'clock at COP. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Court members, you have before you the minutes of our regular meeting of December the 8th.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion to suspend the discussion. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. I would note today that today is Grace's birthday, so as you have an opportunity to leave the court, you might stop by the office, and there she is. Happy birthday, Grace. Thank you. Court members, you have before you the consent agenda.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. We have two public hearings that we need to address today. The first, come on forward.
Morning, Judge, members of the court. It is requested that the Commissioners Court today consider the establishment of school zones at various locations throughout Tarrant County. Previous Commissioner Court records did indicate that some reduced speed limits were authorized on these roadways adjacent to schools located in the unincorporated area. However, these roadways listed below have no record of an established school zone. And this will follow up with another court communication coming up immediately after this. Precinct 1, Brock Elementary School on Oak Grove Road South. Precinct number 4, Eagle Mountain Elementary School on West Fork Trail, Morris Idaho, Newark, FM 1220, Boat Club Road and Dixon Road. Eagle Heights Elementary School on Dalton, Lucerne, and Sunset. Liberty Elementary School on Liberty School Road and Liberty School Tap Road. Establishing these roadways with school zones provides the necessary documentation for a future court order, which will be following this, requesting authorization for the installation of signs prohibiting the use of cell phones in established school zones.
This is a public hearing. I'll open the public hearing at this time and ask if anyone's here would like to speak to this matter. There appearing none, I will close the public hearing and ask if there's any action that y'all wish to take.
I move approval of the request.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Next request is that the Commissioners Court consider placement of no cell phone use signs in established school zones throughout Tarrant County. The 81st Texas Legislature passed House Bill 2833, which amended the Texas Transportation Code. This bill basically prohibits the use of cell phones in established school zones in the state of Texas. The Tarrant County Sheriff's Office, in coordination with transportation services and various communities around, have identified 8 established school zones which will be affected by this legislation. Roadway locations are Townley Elementary on McPherson, Brock Elementary on Oak Grove Road South, Freedom Elementary on Wall Price Keller, Boswell High School on Bailey Boswell, Liberty Elementary on Liberty School and Liberty School Tap Road, Eagle Heights Elementary on Dalton, Lucerne, and Sunset, W.E. Hoover Elementary and Santo J. Forte Junior High School, North Campus on Sandy Beach, and Eagle Mountain Elementary School on West Fork Trail, Morris Idaho, Newark, FM 1220, Boat Club, and Dixon Road.
This is a public hearing. I'll open the public hearing at this time and ask if anyone's here wishing to speak to this matter. There appearing none, then I will close the public hearing.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mayes?
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the Court, we have 3 additional items for you this morning. The first item, we're requesting that the Court approve a letter of engagement between Tarrant County and KPMG to audit the court registry accounts for both the district and county clerks.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Members of the Court, on item number 2, this is a request for an exception to the county's within-region travel policy as it relates to the juvenile court judge and the associate judges that are related to that. This concerns a trip to Dallas that is scheduled in February.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Members of the Court, on item number 3, this is also an exception, but an exception to the out-of-state travel policy as it relates to criminal court support in County Criminal Court number 9. Just some information. This deals with our Veterans Court, and there was some information in a program that was up in Oklahoma. These individuals have spoken with our office, and because of the timing and everything, we did not have the ability to get it on the agenda until now. We suggested that they go ahead and make that trip. It was well worthwhile, and we're requesting that the court approve this exception.
Move approval. This had to do with the Veterans Court.
Yes, sir, it did.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Tidwell? Just thought you were going to get her, didn't you?
Good morning. We have one item for the court's consideration this morning. When we went live with SAP, we went live with payroll in the beginning, and the general ledger was not integrated for 9 months, and so there were some reconciling issues that came up, some things that didn't get recorded both places for the most part. We have researched this in detail over years, And we're now in agreement. TCDRS agrees with us. We actually have the $13,314.43 of employees' deductions that should have gone to TCDRS on their behalf. They're still active employees or retirees, so we need authorization to send that money, including the interest on their money, before the end of the year so that their accounts can be straightened out. The remainder of the communication is speaking to the fact that we have other reconciling items that when you add them all up, we're looking at $1,021.99 that we're requesting that the court authorize us to reduce basically general fund other income. At this point in time, we say there's not any money missing. We don't know who got it. We think there's just expenses that didn't get properly all sides of the entries recorded because we weren't interfaced for the 9 months. But either way, there's $1,000 that we need to clean up our books and make the accounts true, and then we need to cut a check to TCDRS in the amount listed in the court communication. So we're asking approval for those two items today.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Ray, are we going to do yours afterwards? Mr. Weber.
Good morning. Merry Christmas to all of you.
Good morning.
Here this morning to request approval of the early voting sites and schedule for the March primary and April runoff elections.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Glenn? Nope. Ms. Worthy?
Good morning. Our first item is request that you receive and file the personnel agenda.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Our second item is requesting approval for the 2010 Epass agreement with the Fort Worth Transportation Authority. We have participated in this program since 2001. Currently, we have 223 participants. The prices will remain the same for 2010, and the expected cost based on estimates of ridership is approximately $14,000.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Brewer? Good morning.
We have one item for your approval this morning, and that is interim financing for fiscal year 2010 grants, tuberculosis clinical, STD/HIV prevention, STD prevention, and HIV/AIDS surveillance, and Ryan White Part C.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Sure. It does, but now I said at least what we've been talking about. Roy's is on and mine's not been, so we need to, why don't you hit his, for some reason it's not. We'll try that, see what happens in the future. All those votes, yeah, okay. Ms. Lamb? Nope. Ms. Green? We haven't seen you in a while. You've been hiding.
Been staying low. We request the Commissioners Court to approve the transmission relocation agreement, the discretionary service agreement, and temporary access agreement with Encore Electric Delivery Company in connection with Encore facilities located in private easements along Robertson Road.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Appointments? Any appointments? I would like to appoint, I believe, your term on the bail bonds board along with, is it Judge
Molly Jones, County Judge.
Molly Jones? Are up, and so I would like to move the reappointment of Commissioner Johnson and Judge Jones to the bail bonds board.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. You have before you the claims, including the addendum.
Move approval of the claims, including the addendum.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the claims, including the addendum. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Briefing items, Mr. Manius.
Thank you, Your Honor. We have 2 items for the court this morning, actually 3 items for the court this morning. The first one concerns an update from the hospital district. Mr. Early is here to address the court at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Manius, Your Honor, Commissioners. I do want to come before you today and thank you for the honor of allowing me to be at the hospital district. It's a nice time to reflect, and I care a great deal about this county, and I care about our patients. And JPS, like any other institution, is not always going to do the right thing, but I think we're headed in the right direction, and we're trying to do the right thing at all times. And I appreciate the way that you all work with us and the way that you help us, when you help us find our mistakes and you help them make them better. It is difficult sometimes when we are turning the corner and doing the right things to get some attention to that, and I understand that's the basic nature of things. I came before this court and told you of things that weren't right in our emergency room, and I reported to you that 21%, just roughly around 21% of those appearing in our waiting rooms in the emergency department left without being seen. I'm here today to proudly tell you that that rate has been reduced to a historic low of 2.2%. That's almost 2% lower than the national average. So there are inroads, and there are things that are going well, and I'm proud of that, and I'm proud of the team that's made it happen. At the same time, there are areas that we need a good deal of fixing, and we're going to work to do the same thing we did in the emergency department in some categories to fix those. Our patient satisfaction scores are still low, and I still don't like where they are. I'm still frustrated, but it's not something that you cure overnight. You cure it with patience and perseverance, and that's what we're going to do. And so we're undaunted. So I do want to thank you all for allowing me the honor to be there. It's a great place to be. I also want to let you know that the American College of Surgeons came in, and when the American College of Surgeons came in, they reviewed JPS for the possibility of becoming a level 1 trauma center. The review went very well. In fact, when the surveyors left, they had nothing but good things to say about us. However, we won't know the outcome for about another 3 weeks till they send me a letter and tell me whether we've been approved for level 1. I think that's important to you as a court, because that will then put Tarrant County in the place that it should be. It should not be an urban county of its size without a level 1 trauma center. And a level 1 trauma center means better trauma care for this entire community, and your public hospital should be affording that to its citizens. So we're going to work to make that happen. Also wanted to let you know that we have, as reported in the paper, improved our urgent care facility. We now have an urgent care facility at the main campus that serves 24/7, and that's helping our emergency room quite a bit, because a lot of people use the emergency room, unfortunately, for the wrong reasons. They're not emergencies. However, we have to deal with them for the good care we want to provide. So our urgent care is now open on main campus 24/7. And I think that's been a huge benefit, and it's been a benefit to the area hospitals as well, because that's less folks you're going to see at the worst place possible, which is your emergency room. The other thing that I want to do, and I want to do this according to the proper procedures, but I would like to invite each one of you and Mr. Manius and staff here to meet with the new staff at JPS. We've had a lot of new administrators, and you need to meet the new CFO and the new chief of nurses. You need to meet our senior vice president of quality so you know who those people are. So if your constituents have a concern, you can deal with me, and then I'll introduce you to those people. But I think it would be helpful if you all came over. So we'll be sending you an invitation, and we'll be cognizant of quorums and those type things. But I'd like to have you all come over and have lunch with us and meet the new team and let them introduce themselves to you and what they do and their responsibilities. And we've added a few in the areas of quality and our risk management, which is areas that we need some significant help in. So I wish you all the best of holidays, and thank you again for allowing me to be there, and I'm happy to answer any question you all have.
Any questions? One thing we might try along the same lines of getting to know your folks is maybe after the first of the year, everybody coming together and let's have a little workshop and let's just sit down and just talk about things that are going on, challenges, and at the same time places where we feel like we're making some progress, and just kind of a roundtable type of discussion.
We would welcome it, and I think it'd be very helpful, and we'd be happy to do it. That we want to have a joint meeting, which we could announce and have. We could have it here or over there. Probably be a little bit easier from a space standpoint to have it there, but I think we'd be happy to do that. And as you well know, our new chair takes over, Mr. Fisher, and I'll certainly bring that to his attention, and I'm sure we can get that scheduled. That'd be great. It's a good idea.
Y'all have a good holiday.
Thanks a bunch.
Thank you, Roger.
Members of the Court, we could now go to item B. This is an update on the H1N1 influenza. Ms. Brewer is here to address the Court at this time.
Thank you. We did our event at the Tarrant County Community College Northwest last week, and we did 1,475 H1N1 doses at that event. All of our clinics and our storefronts are busy. However, beginning Saturday and yesterday, we saw a slight decrease in the numbers. We do have plenty of vaccines, so we encourage people to still get, who have not gotten their vaccine before the holidays, to please go ahead and do so. We are scheduled to do Tarrant County employees H1N1 on the 16th from 8:30 to 2. We are continuing to accept more doses of H1N1 vaccine from the state. Today, as promised, we did open our 6th storefront location. It is at a location where we currently have a clinic. This is La Grande Plaza, and we did this because the volume is very heavy there consistently, and this gives us more space to serve our clients. And again, those hours are 10 till 7. I would really encourage anybody that has a question. Our storefront hours are different than our clinic hours. We did that on purpose because we wanted to expand the time during the day that people could go and get their vaccine. I think that's been a little confusing at some times, and so I would just remind everybody that the storefronts are open from 10 till 7 p.m., and the clinics are open from 8 to 5 with a lunch break in the middle. But if you have any doubts, check the website and we'll give you the clinic schedules and the locations. I did want to relate to you an example of our hardworking staff. Saturday, our storefronts were open, and one of our locations, with about 3 hours to go, the refrigerator broke. And rather than closing the doors and saying, sorry, we can't see anybody else, the staff shifted the bulk of the vaccine over to one of our major centers and put the rest of the vaccine that they thought they would need for the rest of the day in a cooler and continued to give vaccine until almost the end of the time period that day. And they just do that. That's what they do all year long. We don't realize that sometimes refrigerators break down, and we do get a warning about that, and sometimes our staff are out in the middle of the night moving vaccine around to keep it safe and to keep from wasting any vaccine. I'd also like to mention that I went downstairs to talk to the vaccine distribution people just to wish them happy holidays this morning. And these are the folks that did the back-to-school immunizations, the seasonal flu events, and the H1N1 events. And I noticed that usually they have a contest and they each decorate their cubicles, and it's just gorgeous at Christmas time. There was nothing. They're very busy people. And in fact, in August, as we reported to you then, we were very busy with back to school. They did 4,000 more immunizations than they did the year before. So we really do appreciate them. We have heard back from several schools and several ISDs. We've contacted them about coming out and doing public events in their schools after the holidays. There is high interest, and as we hear back from them, we will start to schedule those events, and we'll let you know about those after the holidays. These will be in the schools, primarily to reach the school-age children, but they will be public events, so people in those areas will be able to come as well. And I'll be happy to try to answer any questions.
Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank
Have a
you.
good holiday.
You too.
Thank you, Lou. Finally, members of the court, we can go to item C. This is an update on the Emmys office construction. Mr. Phillips is here to address the court.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Is this on the ME office that we're talking about?
This looks like...
And the civil courts building. I would like to update you on the medical examiner's expansion project and the civil courts building project, both included in the 2006 capital improvement program. First, I have three things on the medical examiner's office project. Number one, Dr. Perwani and his staff have reviewed and signed off on the construction documents. Number two, the construction documents are down at the City of Fort Worth for plan review for building permit, and things seem to be going very well down there. Number three, the project is currently out to bid. The project bid should come in on January 14th if we don't have an addendum that extends the bid time for some unknown reason at this time. So right now that project's going very well. On to the civil courts building project. Over the last couple of months, county staff has been negotiating an architectural and engineering services contract with HOK and HKS Architects. We're at the point now, the next step is to nail down an exact scope for approval by Commissioner's Court as it relates whether or not we design a 6-level building or a 7-level building. And what I've given you this morning is some little notes of mine and also a description of the options, what I think the options are, number 1 and 2. And I can give you time to look at these, and I can come back in January and we can discuss in detail. But basically what this does is, from our September 29th presentation on the civil courts building project, we had a 6-level building which included 12 district courtrooms, a mega court, and all the court support space like district clerk, 8th judicial administrative region, and jury services and those sorts of things. The option I brought to you back in September was for an extra floor for the Court of Appeals. Now, we would like to, as far as the architectural contract, we would like to go ahead and put in their contract whether or not they need to design and do construction administration for a Court of Appeals floor.
Are we looking at about a 6% fee on this deal?
It is an 8% fee, and that includes basic services, graphics and signage, security consulting. That also includes acoustical consulting, as well as text accessibility, plan review and inspection, and furniture, fixtures, and equipment design and construction administration, and lead service consultant.
Does the fee go down if the construction cost ends up coming in less?
No, I don't think it will.
So it only goes up and it doesn't come down?
Well, it goes up because of the scope increases, Judge. If we move the scope of the project, it takes more labor hours and CAD technician hours and principal hours to do the project. I negotiated this off something I've done in the past is I used the University of Georgia system. They have a matrix and it's based off complexity and dollar level of a project. And I take that for basic services. Then I go to another list and look at the additional civil engineering, lead services, furniture, fixtures, and equipment. Those are other things I mentioned as additional services, and we lump it in all together.
But the extra $10 million that you're estimating in cost for option 2, the architectural fees are only going up $600,000.
That's correct.
About a 6.5% fee. So where's the 8% coming from? And the 4.3 on the 67 is only about a 6.5% to 7% fee.
Well, I'm sorry, it's construction. I didn't make myself clear there. It's construction cost. It's based off the construction cost, not the full capital project. The number I give you here is $67 million is the full capital cost of the project.
That includes the architectural fees?
Yes, sir. It includes the furniture, fixtures, and equipment and everything. The actual construction cost for the base projects is $51,300,000, which is about an 8.2% fee. And it should be the same regarding the fee percentage on the base project plus the Court of Appeals, and I believe the construction cost for that was about $59 million.
On this, on just recently you brought us the jail, and I know we talked in the jail where we went through and paid for, I guess Gilbane is the one that actually did the reconcilement between the drawings and the
Interdisciplinary document review, yes, sir.
Right. Is that anticipated in the civil courts building also?
Yes, sir.
Is that being done by HOK?
No, sir. No, sir. It will not be done by HOK. It'll be done by Yates Construction, who's the construction manager.
As I also recall, don't we have somebody that's kind of acting as the go-between on these two folks?
On the
construction and the architect?
On the medical examiners in jail, we have a project manager, which is an extension of my staff. That's Broadus and Associates teamed up with KAI Architects in Dallas. They are acting as an extension of my staff to act as project managers. They have also looked at the drawings and have a group down in Austin has reviewed the drawings, specifically with the laboratories for the medical examiners, which I have very little expertise with.
Did they do that on the jail too?
Yes,
they did. Is that a duplicate of what Gilbane did?
No, they didn't go to that detail. Gilbane, we agreed to pay Gilbane around $90,000. They could spend several weeks of 4 or 5 folks going through line item for the specifications and the construction drawings to do a interdisciplinary document review, and they have done that. Architects have gone back and made changes and addressed some of those comments. Now, Gilbane is charged with going back and see if those comments all got addressed. So they're doing that today.
And you're saying that Yates is doing that on the civil courts building?
Yes, Judge. They will once we have a set of construction documents, which will be a year from now.
Okay. The numbers that we're using in the $67 million, what construction units numbers were you looking at? Was this a year ago or is this current based upon, I keep hearing everybody who's gone out for bid recently has come back significantly lower than what they had expected to come back at.
Yes, Judge. We expect some construction cost savings with the jail and medical examiners. We've experienced those things that you've just talked about with Northwest Sub Courthouse and some smaller projects recently with the credit union and others. Now, as far as hitting the bottom of the market when we go out to bid for the civil courts building, I'm not so sure we're going to be able to do that. If we went ahead and approved a architectural engineering contract next month, it would probably take them about 12 months or so to get through all the various design phases and approvals and permit review and so on and so forth before we could actually advertise to bid. I expect the numbers we have today that we presented to you back in September on the 29th was developed, the construction cost was developed by Yates Construction.
Okay. I would just like to take this advantage, as much advantage as we can of this, and I hope that they're moving post-haste to get to that point. Because I don't know what y'all are thinking, but I'm thinking that, if we can get it done quicker in a year, we need to get it done quicker in a year.
Yes, sir. So I'll be back in as quick as I can the next court agendas and to get the court's direction on how you would like to proceed, whether or not we include the Court of Appeals in the project.
Well, I don't think we're going to be able to determine that until we know until we get some bids. I think it's going to have to be an alternative.
We have a...
What do we have in our budget? Sorry. What's our budget for that building?
Our budget for the $62.3 million was approved by the voters in 2006. Now, we've looked at, this project for the base projects is $67 million, and that can be funded, if you like, through the $7.5 million balance of unsold bonds from the 1998 courts facilities project.
So that's 62 plus that 7 is 69.5 is what we're looking at, that we have to work with.
Yes, sir.
Plus some interest maybe off of the...
Some, but not a lot.
And so,
That's a long way from 77.
And I'm not sure you're going to get a go-ahead to do 77 without a bid alternate.
I think in order to get to the bid alternate, and David, correct me if I'm wrong, we're going to have some additional architectural work done because we're increasing we're adding another floor to that building. And there is a price on that. That's about $400,000.
About $650,000.
Well,
Is that for the anticipation of the civil courts floor? Is it going to cost us that much more?
what you have in front of you today is to design a 6-level building and a 7-level building, or a 7-level building. If we design at the same time, we had about $400,000 worth of design fees up through schematic design, because we won't be the cost for the design fees for the building we end up going with, regardless if it's a 7 or 6 level building, will be increased because we'll be having architects and engineers design 2 buildings, because essentially it is 2 buildings, because all the mechanical, electrical infrastructure is really 2 different systems.
Why? You're adding a floor. I don't understand why we're designing 2 different buildings.
Because we wouldn't want to, they don't want to design the structure and all the other infrastructure and disciplines to design it and end up with a 6-level building, because that 6-level building will now cost us an extra $50 or $40 to $50 a square foot when it didn't need to. Now, we have an option here, if you'd like. One of the things that's in my memo to you, if it's a matter of deciding whether or not the Court of Appeals goes in the civil courts building, there's really 3 factors. One is the $10 million additional cost. Number 2 is whether or not we would actually need the space that the Court of Appeals is currently in for future growth for the criminal court system. Now, and we won't really know that until...
Or the DA's office.
And that, yes, Judge, I would include that in the criminal court system, whether or not we need that 20,000 square feet or not. Now, when I came to you in September, we talked about doing a study regarding the criminal court's needs assessment for space and essentially how we would lay out the Tim Curry Criminal Justice Center, how it would all block and stack up. Now, the study, we've asked HOK to give us a proposal for that study, and they have. It's approximately $250,000 to go do it.
Civil courts are we moving out of the criminal courts building?
10. And we're providing 2 additional future courts.
And we just added a criminal court over there where we had to move 2 civil courts out of there already to have room to put the new criminal court.
Yes, sir.
So the 10 that we're moving out, we've already moved out 2.
That's correct. So
we're really only moving out 8.
Well, you're moving total, that's correct. You're moving total 10 civil courts we have in our system, and we'll provide for 2 additional future courtrooms in this new building, along with a mega courtroom.
You know, I don't know whether I certainly don't think we've got the need right now. The problem is that if we ever are going to need, I'm not sure I understand the reasoning behind spending $250,000 to do a study or spending $400,000 and having us decide whether we're going to build a building that can house 7 floors or 6 floors. Part of me says that if there's ever going to be a move, we've got to have a floor over there. Now, whether we end up moving the Second Court of Appeals over immediately or not, I don't know. But we're not going to add another floor to the criminal courts building.
No.
If we ever decide, if we run out of room in that criminal courts building sometime into the future, we're either going to have to raise that building and build another one, or have 1 extra floor on our civil courts building that we could eventually move something over there, whether it be the Court of Appeals, and then I don't know how stacked the DA's office is. I know that at one point, they're sharing that floor, I guess, right now. But it certainly allows, we've got a lot of extra courts. You're right there from a standpoint that we ought to have 8 vacancies when we moved everybody over.
Well, we've got a lot of remodeling to do in that building. I realize that, the criminal courts building. But how much net floor space are you going to end up with additional once you move all the civil courts out?
Well, Commissioner, if we decide to go in and do some significant renovations, that triggers a few things. That triggers new building code requirements and Texas accessibility requirements. Currently, if we were going to try to do any work on the existing courtrooms and the court suites, and that court suite includes the courtroom and all the adjacent offices and restrooms and those sorts of things, we would need to look at redoing the courtroom completely because of ADA ramps and so on and so forth, accessibility issues. So there's 8 courts per floor in that building now, and we would not, if we were going to do significant renovations, we would not be able to get 8 courts per floor when we ended up.
So maybe that's the reason for spending the money now to do the review of the renovation is that if we get that part of it done and we begin to look at how we're going to renovate that building and what it's going to end up looking like after we've renovated it, then we'll have an idea of how many courts we might end up with.
One thing, it would give you some confirmation that moving the Court of Appeals is the best thing to do. There's 20,000 square feet up there, half the floor on the 9th floor, and it would be intuitive to think that yes, eventually we'll need that space for the criminal justice system. However, how it will all block up and stack up and how it will fit all together, we won't know that until we do some kind of programming and blocking stacking exercise.
Have we talked about, or have we actually hired someone yet to do the plans for the renovation?
No, sir. When we did the request for qualifications for the civil courts building, we included it as an alternate for the firm selected by Commissioners Court to do some of the initial design, programming, and possibly design of that renovation. And we have not engaged anybody to do any of that yet.
And what was the alternate for that? How much were we
Well,
doing?
we don't know the exact scope yet because the first thing we would do is to do a needs assessment, space needs assessment for various departments. And then we would determine what space we had to touch. And we don't know what space we have to touch until we kind of lay it all out and block and stack and see who fits where. We may not have to touch a lot of spaces. We don't touch a floor.
Well, but I thought you just said that we had.
If you don't touch.
No, you said something about when we did the civil courts building we had as an alternate. I thought you said a study for the new space.
Well, what I was trying to say is when we went out for professional services and the court approved the professional services for HOK and HKS to do the work in the civil courts building, in that document, the RFQ document, we also had for professional services related to the Tim Curry building if the court decided to do it. It's already been evaluated. The court essentially can select HKS or HOK or another firm. It's written in such a manner to allow you some flexibility if you would like to select another firm to go in and look at the Tim Curry building. That way we don't have to go out for another RFQ. And they all the ones that submitted, all the large firms submitted, made statements to their expertise and skills regarding the design and renovating existing buildings, court facilities. So we do have that ready to go.
It's probably something we ought to, does anybody have any strong feelings one way or another right now, or is that something we ought to put on the agenda for first part of January? Because we probably do need to get at least far enough down the road in our needs of that criminal court and what it's going to look like after we've renovated it to know how many courtrooms. If we're going to lose courtrooms on each floor, we need to have a feel for how many we may lose and then what we're going to end up with and then what the DA's needs are from that standpoint.
And Judge, if we renovate them, and if we don't touch the floor, I don't think we'll have to lose any courtrooms on a particular floor if we don't touch the floor. But there's a point where we trigger a lot of other things happening in the building once we start touching the floor.
And if we don't touch the floor, besides having a lot of criminal judges in somewhat of a stirred state,
Yes.
how many vacant courtrooms would we have down there at that point in time?
Well, currently there's 31 in the building. If we've moved, we'll have 8 left, as you said before. Now, of Court of Appeals, that's a large courtroom on the 9th floor. We also could leave that as a larger courtroom.
But if we left them down there, what you're telling me is we'd have 8 vacant courts at the time.
And I think one of the issues, Judge, is a lot of the office space needs regarding the district attorney and other folks in there, court support, and those sorts of folks who are busting at the seams regarding office space. So.
The one thing about the court's floors is that that you can't move are the inmate elevators that are in there, and all of those are located so that one elevator supports 2 courts. And some of the things that have happened in the recent past that at one point was a concern to some of the judges that have now been somewhat alleviated has been the number of inmates we can hold in our holding cells. You might remember David came to you and talked to you about the fact that jail standards now allows us to do that by bench space versus square footage. I think that's an easy way of describing that. David and I have talked about this issue to a great extent, maybe to at least to a great extent. The way I see it is that there's options. You can either spend $400,000 and try to and be able to bid the new civil courts building out with an ad alternate of moving the courts of appeal to it. Or you can spend $250,000 to do a study as to the needs of the civil or the criminal courts building, and then you may need to also spend that $400,000. I don't know if it'll delay the process, but if you do move the courts over there, and then I'm talking about the Court of Appeal, then you have a building that has a defined number of square feet that are available, and then you would apply how much space that you would allocate to that criminal justice group to the amount of space that you have, because I don't think we're going to be adding on to the Tim Curry building. I mean that's.
I don't see, once we build the buildings, I don't see us adding on to either one of them, and that's my concern. We won't add on to the criminal courts building. I just don't see how that could happen. So you're right, it's then trying to anticipate what our eventual need is going to be, and we've added a district criminal court. We've not added any county criminal courts lately, and I don't know that there's any need to look at that. And I don't know how much more. They're projecting continued growth in Tarrant County, which says that demand should continue to move up, but I don't know to what extent, and I don't know how quickly that would.
Are the criminal cases increasing that much?
They dropped the last 2 years on the felony cases. Suzanne would have to speak to the misdemeanor cases.
It's not going on that much. We're holding our own, I think.
We had a big spike in 2007. That was the record year, and they've come down well over 1,000 cases since, cases filed. But they're not back to where they were in 2005, where they started to move up. So, it's just part of those little jaggedy lines you see on the chart. I wouldn't expect any great drop from here in felony cases.
So then the question with regards to if we begin a renovation of that building, which we have said that we were, which we've indicated we were going to do, is because of everything that we then have to turn around and comply with, how many courts are we likely to use, and how much additional space is the DA and the district clerk and the county clerk and other folks in that facility going to need, and are we likely to lose, if we come off of 8 courts per floor, which is what there is right now,
sir,
and we were to end up with 6,
then we end up, we've lost what? We've lost 8 courts, 6 to 8 courts.
We have 6 courts. Yeah.
So we're now back to the point where we don't have a growth, we don't have any growth left in that if we leave the Court of Appeals over there. Now, if we take the Court of Appeals out, depending upon how much the DA, or if we at least have an option open, because I guess, again, the way I look at it is if we don't build the extra floor on the civil courts building, there's no way we'll ever be able to move the criminal courts or the Court of Appeals anywhere. Because we've only got 2 vacant courts scheduled over there, and so there won't be that'll seal the fate of the Second Court of Appeals if we only build 6 floors. If we build a 7th floor and just shell it out for the time being, then you still got to do all your structure and you got to do all your mechanical and all that, but we don't have the finish-out costs.
That's correct.
Which were pretty hefty for that Court of Appeals.
Yes, sir.
Do they believe their current facilities to be inadequate?
Yes, Commissioner, I believe the last time I talked to Justice Casey several months ago, I think they were looking for future growth for the 12 counties that they serve, and they have 7 justices now, and I think they would go to 9 eventually. The new space in the new civil courts building would provide space for 9 justices, 8 and a chief justice.
So I hadn't heard that before. I wasn't aware of it. So how many justices can they go up to?
You just have 6 right now.
But you're saying they could go up to 8 plus the chief?
No.
They have to have the rest of the space on the 9th floor if they're going to expand much beyond where they are.
That's not my question. My question is how many
The legislature provides that direction.
They provide the number of justices and then a chief.
That's correct.
Okay.
But in the preliminary schematic designs we've done for the civil courts in this particular ad alternate floor, we had spaces for 9 judges.
And right now, where they're at, in order for them to go anything above what they've got right now, which is 7, they're going to have to take over more space out of the DA's office.
Yes, sir.
Count the staff.
And that's what he's been saying is the problem, that we don't, courtrooms aren't as big the problem as people.
Yeah.
Does the Court of Appeals have to be in a court facility? I'm talking about like civil courts, family court, or...
I don't know that. I think there is some affinity regarding courts facilities.
There are some courts of appeal that are located in a law school, and some of them are located in courts buildings. They have to. Their internal structure has to be like it is now. But as far as being in a physical facility with another set of courts like a district or county courts, no.
So we could relocate it at a later date in something other than a courthouse. They might not like that, but it could be possibly.
They could, but now you've got to take all the administration. You got to take the protection. You got to take.
Doesn't sound like a good idea to me, based on what we've been doing historically.
Yeah. But I guess at least it is an alternative from that standpoint.
I do have a couple of options, 6-level or 7-level building, and I'll be back in early January to discuss it some more. And that's all I have today.
But this just gets us 7 floors. It doesn't give us the finish out for Court of Appeals.
Yes, sir, it does. It's the full...
The $77 million gets us everything.
Yes, sir. It's full finish out.
What was the...
Huh?
Remember, we located them up there in that building since I've been on this court.
What was the finish out? That's what I was going to ask. What was the finish out on that building when we looked at it?
Judge, we spent full capital cost was right at $2 million, and that included the district attorney's offices. So that floor was about $2 million. And that included the furniture as well. And that's 44,000. What is $2 million divided by 44,000 square feet?
Lynn, tell us that.
4 or 5.
What?
$2 million divided by 44,000?
50. 50 times 4. 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 50 times 4.
It was about $50 a square foot renovation.
And that was in 1990, late 90s.
Wow.
80, 98, so.
It might be comparable now then. Just right this minute, but
Okay. We have stated before, I'm not sure how excited any of us are going to be to go over what we've got in the bond program to do that building. Now, if I thought we could finish a floor and not move them at this point in time, then I might be, but if we're turning around and then going to renovate and then move them, there's a lot that I think we still have to look at on that deal, but
okay.
I'm going to lean toward putting a 7th floor on that building, just knowing that eventually, at some point in that future, that we're probably going to be looking to move them over there, because I think we're going to run out of room in the criminal courts building. By the time the DA and the district clerk and the administrative offices expand, I think we're going to lose at least a court and maybe 2 courts per floor, and then we're going to find ourselves with just as many criminal courts as we've got right now and no ability to expand. And so that's concerning. Yes, sir?
The only expansion that I propose to David is to take over, keep what we have now on the 3rd floor and possibly take what the DA's got on the 3rd floor for evidence room, to get it out of the building that you're going to tear down. We don't need any expansion up on the...
How many square feet is that?
I don't know what the floor is. They have about a third maybe of the 3rd floor.
40. How many square feet to a floor?
44,000.
Okay, so a third is going to be right at
13, 14,000.
Mr. Wilder's also going to gain the space that his civil section is in now, in that building.
That's what I'm proposing there. Where the civil file desk is, that would give us all we need if we could get that. And then on 5, 6, 7, and 8, where we have clerk's offices, those would stay as is. We don't need to expand out of that at all.
Okay.
Thank you.
This is why we brought this to you today, because we did intend to have a major discussion with the court in January on this.
Well, and again, that's why I am very appreciative of coming every week to talk about one of the things, because that just kind of keeps us moving, and I think kind of keeps us informed on where we are on that stuff.
Tom, you said you wouldn't have to expand on those upper floors, but what if they had some more courts? Do you not have to expand for them?
If you were to add, say, a couple more criminal courts or something
Yes.
in the future, because of the space that we have that in those island offices, if you remember what those look like, roughly half of it is criminal and half of it is civil. But it depends on which floor, because some, like on 5, that's all criminal. But the bottom line is we'll have some civil clerk space that would be, that we could expand the criminal into that, and I'm sure we could work out the stacking arrangement on however that would be. But I wonder if anybody's talked to Joe since he took office, because he's going to be the main driver in what?
I've talked to him, but it hadn't been about floor space.
That's all we have at this time.
I think that's the issue. I'm not sure he's had a chance to really sit down and evaluate that. So we might just encourage, for this January discussion, we might encourage Tom and Suzanne and Joe and everybody else that's in that building to begin to think a little bit about that and have a sit down before we get into hiring someone to just talk a little bit about that.
There's going to be thousands and thousands of feet, square foot request. I can tell you when that starts.
I think you're probably right. That's it.
That's all we have at this time, Your Honor.
The court will now recess open session and proceed to closed session to discuss items exempted under sections 551.071, 072. 074, 076, and 087 of the Texas Government Code. And return from closed session, we'll now address the following items.
Thank you, Your Honor. With regard to item number 1, requesting authorization for the auditor to cash a check on $684.65. Payment of our subrogation claim.
Move for approval.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Someone put a sticky right over the end of that, so.
Moving right along.
All right. Number 2, requesting authorization to authorize the DA's office to appeal this case to the Supreme Court of Texas and authorize $200 in funds to be paid to the Supreme Court of the State of Texas to undertake this appeal. We request this amount be paid, that would be approved without first appearing on the claims register, and authorize the auditor to issue the check.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
All right, item number 3, requesting authorization for the county judge to sign our claim form for the PBC portion of our claim.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
And we're requesting authorization for the county judge to sign our claim under number 4 on behalf of the Public Health Department.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you so much. Merry Christmas to all.
Merry Christmas to y'all. There being no further business, we are adjourned. Y'all all have a happy holiday, and I'll see you on the 29th.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Maybe the 29th.
Well, if not,